Let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe, a power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Let us realize that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice.
There is a tendency to think that what we see in the present moment will continue. We forget how often we've been astonished by the sudden crumbling of institutions, by extraordinary changes in people's thoughts, by unexpected eruptions of rebellion against tyrannies, by the quick collapse of systems of power that seemed invincible. What leaps out from the history of the past 100 years is its utter unpredictability.
Demonstrations in Russia were like totally illegal. After 1 second holding the banner in front of you, you would be arrested. But we did it once, and we did it twice, and then we did it 3 times, and a year later, demonstrations were a common thing on the streets of Moscow. We didn't believe that we can change anything, but we did it anyway.
After many centuries of warfare in Europe, who could have imagined the emergence of the political and economic power that is now the European Union? And in a country with a history of slavery and segregation, who could have predicted that a man of color would be elected its president? Or that a nation would publicly apologize for the wrongs committed against its first peoples?
We apologize for the laws and policies of successive parliaments and governments that have inflicted profound grief, suffering and loss on these our fellow Australians. For the pain, suffering and hurt of these stolen generations, we say sorry.
Many, many years ago, I interviewed Desmond Tutu prior to the end of apartheid. And he kept saying, when we end apartheid, and I kept thinking, yeah, right, you know, like, dream on. I mean, I didn't want to, you know, rain on his parade or anything, but in my heart of hearts, I thought, not in your lifetime. And lo and behold, a year and a half later, it was over. So it was a really profound lesson about what can happen when the will of people aligns.
We have defeated awful things like Nazism, like apartheid, and we've seen some wonderful human beings, Mahatma Gandhi, the Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa. What that says is that ultimately good prevails. It is a moral universe, despite all appearances to the contrary. It is that there's no way in which evil will ultimately triumph.
Many experts are convinced that humanity already possesses the resources and technology to solve our most pressing environmental and social problems.
We know how to do these things. This is not a great mystery. We don't have to do research for the next 20 years to figure out what to do. We know what to do. We think it'll take about $200 billion a year to stabilize population, eradicate poverty, and restore the economy's natural support systems over the next decade. That's a lot. But when you compare it with military budgets, it's really not that much. It is less than 1/3 of the US military budget. It is roughly 1/8 of the global military budget. So we can't say we don't have the resources to save civilization. We do.
The ideas, technologies, and policies that will lead to a new future are already emerging in government, business, and civil society, as well as in people's personal lives throughout the world.
El Ecuador es el primer país en el mundo en reconocer los derechos de la naturaleza en su constitución. El reconocer los derechos de la naturaleza significa tratar a la naturaleza como un alien a quien proteger y no como un algo que se destruye, que se explota.
The United Nations Millennium Development Goals represent a worldwide effort to end hunger and poverty by 2015.
Businesses and corporations are recognizing that success in the 21st century means paying attention to the triple bottom line: people, planet, and profit.
The world's largest corporation has announced aspirational goals to be 100% renewable energy, zero waste, and sell only sustainable products. 60 to 90,000 companies that sell products to Walmart will now have to show that they are measuring and tracking their carbon footprint and beginning to reduce it.
A lot of people think that trash is inevitable. It's one of those necessary evils of life, but that's not true. Waste is actually the product of bad design, and bad design can be changed.
Innovative design is also creating low-tech solutions for the developing world. At the heart of the transition to a new world are the communities, families, and individuals who are changing the way they are living, making new choices based on the values that support a more sustainable, just, and fulfilling society.
When we think about global warming, we think about transportation, we think about how we heat our houses, but in fact how we eat has just as big an impact on climate change.
Everywhere on planet Earth, in cities and towns, suburbs and villages, a vast and unprecedented global phenomenon is beginning to make itself known.
There is another superpower here on Earth that is an unnamed movement. It is far different and bigger and more unique than anything we have ever seen. It flies under the radar of the media by and large. It is nonviolent. It is grassroots. It has no cluster bombs, no armies, and no helicopters. It has no central ideology. A male vertebrate is not in charge. This unnamed movement, you can clap for that. The very word movement is too small to describe it. This is humanity's immune response to resist and heal political disease, economic infection, and ecological corruption caused by ideologies. This is fundamentally a civil rights movement, a human rights movement. This is a democracy movement. It is the coming world. What you're seeing here is the beginning of a list of the 2 million organizations in the world that work towards social and environmental justice. And that's a minimum. To give you a sense of how big this movement is, if I start this tape today at 9 a.m. and we watch this all day and all night, and the day after that, and then we watch it for 3 more weeks, and then another month after that, we still would not have seen the names of all the groups in the world. It's the largest social movement in the history of humankind by far.
Powering this growing global phenomenon is the explosive digital revolution that is revealing and connecting a planetary human community.
People can now be connected nationwide to act locally in their communities and then have all that local action united into one synchronized, beautiful, harmonic voice.
The only voice we have is this video editing. We don't know books, so we can't write much. But if we are able to do a small film of what is happening to us, it will go to the internet and the whole world will see it.
We have the technologies, policies, and initiatives to move us toward a thriving future. All that's missing is something that only human beings can provide: the commitment, the collective will to change our direction. Awake, committed people are galvanizing that will and becoming who they need to be to make it happen together.